Shout out to Julian Banks. Yes, sir. And I am Big Snoop Dogg.
Welcome back to another episode of After Hours. I'm your host, Julian Banks. We are here with a very special guest, Rob Moore. Rob is a property investor, entrepreneur, podcaster, public speaker, and co-owner of Progressive Property. Welcome to the show, dude.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, so I've been following you for a while, and it's amazing to watch your journey. You know, it's 360 properties, 1,300 tenants, UK's largest property training company, 18 books, Disruptors podcast. I mean, you might be the hardest working person in the space.
Yeah, I have a lot of pain from my childhood that's driving me towards working. Probably a 14-hour day for me at the moment would be an easy day.
Early childhood trauma is driving you.
Yeah, let's just be really honest right at the start. Well, the axiology is the study of values, and values actually come from voids. So what's most important to us in our lives are the things that we lack. And so we're all moving towards something that we lack. And as you all know, if you study really successful people, many of them have had traumatic things happen to them when they were young, which is, maybe they've had abuse or maybe they've gone bust. And that creates a hole which they're continually trying to fill. And I definitely feel that in my life. Some people call it like a fire inside you, but I know it's actually a hole. But I used to think it was bad. I used to think there was something wrong with me. I now realize that those things that happened to me when I was younger that I hated at the time were the greatest gifts for me now.
Can you kind of take us back to your initial journey? So you're involved in multiple sectors, real estate, entertainment, education, but I wanted to start off with kind of real estate, where your business journey began. Can you take us through the founding of your company, Progressive Property, its various iterations? Because the initial conception was to just buy and own properties, but it evolved into a property sourcing company, then education platform. What was the initial impetus for starting the company?
So when I was 6, my dad got me working in his pub. He'd get me going down to the cellar, which was almost a vertical drop behind the bar, just like a trapdoor. It's quite dangerous, but I loved it because I was small. I could go in there and put all the bottles on the shelf even while they were busy working, and I just loved it. I loved it more than school. Dad would pay me £1 a week, and I'd go down to the local pound shop and I'd buy the picture of the Ferrari and put it on my wall, the picture of the Lamborghini and put it on my wall. And all I really wanted to do was be like Dad, which he looked to me like he had the best life, where he had loads of money and everyone thought he was the man and the boss. Obviously, I didn't see all of his challenges because he was a great dad and he hid those from me because he was very strong and proud. Problem with life is it gets in the way a lot. And, I've found that in order to be wealthy and successful, it's not really about what you learn. It's about what you need to unlearn. The society and school and college and university sort of conditioned or programmed, because we're born with this infinite potential, and then over the years that all seems to be squashed out. So I was that guy. I went to school because I wanted to get good grades, because I wanted people to think I was smart. I went to college and got good grades because I wanted people to think I was smart. I did a subject for years I wasn't interested in. Then I went back and worked in my dad's pub for 2 or 3 years to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and I'm 26 years and 11 months old, and I'm 50 grand in debt, which is pound sterling. 20 years ago, the inflation, that was probably double now. And then my dad had this huge nervous breakdown in his pub in front of all the customers. The police were called. He got beaten up in front of them all. He got arrested, sectioned, the lot. And it was horrific. And I remember moping around for a week or two, hating myself and seeing my dad, who I'd always really looked up to, kind of fall from grace, and me feeling like, wait a minute, I wanted to have something big in my life and I've got nothing in my life. So a couple of serendipitous moments. My dad and another guy who'd sort of become a bit of like an uncle who I wasn't related to, had been saying to me for about 5 years, you need to get into real estate. You need to get into real estate. You know, everyone makes money in real estate. Look at the rich list. Everyone's in real estate. You buy, you hold, you die. And they were telling me all this stuff for years. And I was like, I can't afford it. It's for yuppies. You know, rich people are greedy and arrogant and ruthless. And I had all these pent up envies and really bad beliefs about successful people. But after what had happened with my dad, I was like, well, I better go check this out then, because everything feels pretty fucked to me. And I'm in a lot of pain. And I'll tell me where to go. Go to a property event, I'll go to it. Tell me where to go. When is it? Even though I didn't know anything about property and I was not keen to go and talk to those kind of people. So anyway, I went to my first local property networking meeting. And at the end, at the bar, I met my business partner, who I've been with for 18 years. We struck it off because we were both a similar age and we both wanted to be successful. He was just already on the way and I was right at the start. And within 2 weeks, he'd helped me blag a job for a property sourcing company, all based on my hunger and desperation, no qualifications. Because I was hungry with what happened with my dad and what I wanted to be in life. Within 1 year, I'd paid off my 50 grand of debt. I'd earned nearly 100 grand. I'd learned sales. I'd learned marketing. I'd learned public speaking. And Mark and I, my business partner, we'd bought 20 properties with his money, evenings and weekends, like after we did our 9 to 5. And it was a very transformative year for me. And that we then set up our own company. Then there's another 17 years to fill in all the gaps. But that's essentially the start.
Nice. And you've notoriously said no one is really self-made. It's all about a team. So what aspects of your founder, Mark, kind of resonated with you and made you want to start that journey together?
Yeah, it's a wild myth about being self-made. I just want to acknowledge you for saying that, because if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. If you look at any great fighter, they've got a great camp, a great coach. They've probably got 6 coaches. Even golfers, they have the chipping coach, the putting coach, the swing coach, the mindset coach, the caddy. I've probably missed some. If you could probably make 100 grand on your own with a little VA from the Philippines part-time. But if you want to make $1 million or 10 million or 20 million or 50 million, you need staff, you need a lot of customers. So it's a myth about being self-made. All self-made means is you didn't get a massive inheritance to start, which
Right.
can be a curse. And so, yeah, Mark was a bit further ahead of me. So I guess I was like leveraging his experience. He had some money, so I was leveraging his money. He had skills I didn't. I had desire and hunger to learn skills he didn't. And so we were both able to be useful to each other. Because if you think about it, if there's one of you, something isn't getting done. If there's 2 of you doing the same thing, one of you isn't needed. So when there's 2 of us doing different things, like he was managing the property empire that we were building, because like you said, we've got about 350 rental units. I was building the training business, both of which are 8-figure businesses, but we'd have probably only had one small one with one of us.
Yeah, and it's like, those are a lot of these myths that you debunk in your academy too, and like in all these classes and training modules. Everything that we're taught from the very beginning. Why aren't we taught these basic building blocks? You know, we're never taught how to make money, invest, leverage debt. It's almost better if we're autodidactic and self-reliant. Why do you think we're not taught this from a young age, at least?
Well, this is a very easy answer, because the systems
matrix
that, well, I don't know if there is a matrix. I do know there's powerful corporations and powerful families who benefit out of us being their product.
Right.
So does it benefit them for us to be awakened and entrepreneurial and decentralized? No. Does it benefit them for us to be just over broke, so we need to keep borrowing from them? Just believe whatever they tell us. So if they want us to pay all of our money in taxes, we will. And if they want us to stay in their house for 3 months, we will. So you just got to think about, it used to anger me that basic financial education wasn't taught in schools, but it doesn't benefit whoever runs the schools, whoever runs the governments, and whoever runs the banks, because we are their product. So I've transcended the moral judgment of that. Because I'll give you an example of this, which I think is quite relevant. In my local city over the last 18 years, planning rules have relaxed, which has made it easier for us to develop. And then planning rules have tightened, which has made it harder for us to develop. If I ran my local city, would I loosen or tighten the planning laws? Of course I would loosen them because I would benefit because I could develop more property. So I actually understand, well, if you own the banks, are you going to design a system that makes you billions or is for the betterment of the people and doesn't make you any money? It's just human nature that there's an element of selfishness in us, which there needs to be. However, it's gone the other way, where it's too selfish, it's too corporate. Where this drives from, I've discussed this a lot on my show, Disruptors, with some really smart people. There's something that an economist coined a phrase, maximum shareholder value. And the problem with maximum shareholder value is that is essentially profit at all costs. And in the pharmaceutical industry, the costs are our health when it's supposed to help the health. In the banking sector, it's the cost is our money when they're supposed to look after our money. So because of maximum shareholder value, the thing they're supposed to help us do is they do the opposite. So I think the world needs to change where we have efficient shareholder value or maximum shareholder value, but maximum humanitarian value. Mm-hmm. And I have a company where I have 110, 120 staff in the office and plenty outsourcers. And I equally care about them as I do the profit and the bottom line. And we probably could make more profit and be more ruthless and more efficient. But I have a place where people love to work. And I don't want maximum shareholder value at the cost of having a great work environment, people loving what they do and making a difference.
Yeah, and you touched upon this earlier too. I mean, it's even if you are autodidactic and self-reliant, we're still inundated with so much, almost an overwhelming amount of business advice that's kind of bifurcated between, you have originality, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and then also modeling after and emulating other mentors. How do you, what are the advantages, I guess, of each, and can you integrate both?
Yeah, so I'm really glad you've gone into a bit more nuanced detail on this question, which most people don't. So there's nothing wrong with going to college and getting a degree and becoming a doctor and going down that road and then becoming a really good specialized surgeon and making $500,000 a year and really helping people change lives. There's nothing. So I'm not going to be the guy that knocks the school system. But by the way, if you're a 500 grand surgeon, you're going to be paying 220 grand in tax.
Yeah.
So they benefit. If you want to be entrepreneurial, free, decentralized, have mobility, and you want to be lean and really rich, you have to go your own route, which means you have to self-educate. Now, the good thing about the school system is there's some regulation around what they teach, i.e. there's not a lot of scams taught in the education system. I mean, some people say the education system is a scam, but that aside, if you want to be an architect, a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, once you're in the system, you're protected from major scams and schemes and bullshit and false promises, generally speaking. But in the free world, it's the Wild West, whereby I'm self-educating, I can learn to be a millionaire, but there's TikTokers who are 17 who are trying to teach me how to be rich, and they don't even have pubic hair, and they've got no experience. So how can I fucking listen to them? And then there's big American influencers, but America is different to the UK. And a lot of people are listening, go big or go home, or 10x, or go all in. Doesn't really work for the British audience. It works more for the Americans. So you've got to contextualize. Are they just hacking algorithms? Is this relevant for my country? Have they really done it? And then is their situation similar to mine? So that's the cost of being in the freer market, but the Wild West market. So I will say simply this. The person that you're learning from, are they already doing what you want to do? By the way, the only guarantee of getting rich is learning from rich people. The way to guarantee being broke is hang around broke people. Mm-hmm. So caveat number one, are they doing what you do and are they what you want and are they successful at it? Caveat number two, can you relate and resonate to how they do it? I'll give you an example. And I don't mind because I said it to his face. I don't like Jordan Belfort's story and the way he fucked over a load of people, did a bit of jail time, never paid them back, and then cracked on. Now, I believe everyone should be given a second chance. I said that to him as well. But if you're going to, when him and Grant Cardone had this massive ding dong online, I'm going with Grant every time because I resonate with Grant's story more.
Yeah.
So have they? Well, Jordan Belfort's done it, but I resonate more with Grant. He's my friend, and I resonate more with him. So have they done it? Do you resonate with them? And then the third thing is, can they actually teach you? Because I know there are some people that say, well, there are those that can do and those that can't teach. I know quite a few billionaires who are terrible at teaching. I know people who are worth 100 million who, when they do not know what they know, they just know it and they could never teach you it. And I know some people who are worth 3 to 4 million who are really good teachers and can lay it down and create a framework and break it into simple steps. So you've got those elements to factor in as well. So it's nuanced, but then and what you can do, by the way, I pick this guy because he's good at teaching. I pick this guy because he's a billionaire and I just have to ask good questions. I pick this guy because they're relevant in my nuanced area, like the UK or my niche, and I learn from them all.
So you basically copy the mentor and then extrapolate with your own originality.
Yes.
So I think you said you had a good point about bands as well, where they, initially they have their first few albums are original, or sorry, they emulate mentors originally, and then you kind of develop your own originality after that. Like the Rolling Stones' first albums were all kind of complete ripoffs of Muddy Waters, and then they sort of kind of extrapolate into their own trajectory.
Yes. So again, this is really nuanced conversation, which I like. If you want to be rich, learn from someone who's rich.
Yeah.
But if you copy them to such the degree, you dishonor who you are. And the hardest thing is to live someone else's life. And you will get emotional responses in your body of lack of integrity, always wanted to change your mind, pedestalizing people and then putting them down, and you will lose who you are in the search for trying to be someone else. So you copy strategies and tactics. And by the way, if you're broke, don't change them. But you honor your own uniqueness. So I'm a bit of a rebel. I'm a bit cheeky. I like art and music and fashion. And I like to be original where I can. And I try and bring in that unique, everyone knows how to cook a curry, but what makes yours unique and individual is your own combination of spices that you put in. And so it takes time to find. Like, I remember most public speakers 10 years ago were trying to be Tony Robbins and jumping up and down and high-fiving and hugging and clapping and shouting and screaming. And in Britain, that is the worst thing you can do.
Really?
So, because we're like, what is this shit?
Yeah.
We're British. We're a bit grumpy. So I did the complete opposite. And I do none of that. But I've learned the sales techniques and the speaking techniques from the American gurus. But I just adapt my own style. And a band is original when they take their influences, but then create their own sound. And you can find a place in the world where you are unbelievably successful. I'll give you an example. I don't know if anyone knows of a rock and metal band called Rammstein. But German heavy metal was always very underground and they popularized it. And their music is very simple, the few simple chords, and all their albums are the same, just slightly reiterated. But that suits perfectly for stadiums because it's simple and it's not too intricate. And when you buy a Rammstein album, you know exactly what you're going to get. And so they've found their niche in the world and they do it better than anyone else. They've almost popularized something that otherwise wouldn't be deemed that popular. Then you have Radiohead, who are the opposite, whereby they reinvent themselves every single album. They completely like break all the rules possible. So it's different ways of doing things. You have to find your own identity along the way.
Yeah, I've always wondered that with a lot of the guests that I've had, it's whether they're pursuing something because it's their passion, or they've just found an arbitrage opportunity. Because there's multiple guests that I've had on. I guarantee their goal when they grew up was not to own a subscription makeup box, but they sold it for $500 million. So when people are starting out, is it kind of a mix of pursuing your passion, but then also kind of diverting to, hey, I found this arbitrage opportunity that I can't really let go, even if it's not my full passion, but I found a way to make money doing that?
Yeah. So I was always really envious growing up of the people who really knew what they wanted to do with their life so monomaniacally and singular focusedly. Like, right. Rory McIlroy wanted to be the world #1 golfer from age 2, and Tiger Woods the same. And I was like, oh, I want to be like that because I don't know what I want to do. And I was like that till I was 27. So people like that, they probably could like many things or aren't clear on what they would like. You go through life trying to arbitrage opportunities, and just in that moment, what do you feel like doing? Can you grab an opportunity, jump on it, try and make the most out of it? If you're the sort of person, you know what you want to be and you're absolutely clear on that, then you've got to maximize that passion. And a lot of people think they can't turn their passion into a profession, but if you're more passionate than anyone else and you get better than anyone else, then you can. Mm-hmm. You absolutely can. There are people who play games that make millions. I don't know if you've seen these guys who juggle Rubik's Cubes, and they like make them while they're juggling them, and they'll be making a living just out of juggling Rubik's Cubes. You can make money out of anything if you are the most passionate and the best at it. But you can't be the most passionate and the best at something you're not really that bothered about. Mm-hmm. So you're the kind of person that would need to arbitrage opportunities that come their way. There is one other variable, which is the love of the game. So I love business. I love being an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And other than something immoral or unethical or illegal, I could pretty much after that sell anything or build a business around anything. If you said, I've never been in cosmetics, I'm not really interested in it, but if you challenged me to build a cosmetics brand, I'll give it a go. E-commerce or t-shirt brand, give it a go. Be an agent for the best rapper in the world, give it a go. Because I love business and entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So I think they're your three options.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, you've interviewed, I guess, for your leadership approach within all of that, you've interviewed so many different people. So you have luminaries, entrepreneurs, executives with a wide range of leadership styles. And you have people on the far spectrum like Dan Pena with this brash, aggressive I fucking love him. He's hilarious. Just calling all of his followers cunts. But and then you have on the other side, slightly more Pollyannish, optimistic approach as well. Are there elements from these various leadership styles that you've adopted in your style with your company? And do you prefer a certain style in a mentor?
A good question. So there's a lot of people that talk about leadership and what leadership is. What they're actually saying is what they believe leadership should be. And I think a lot of leadership training is really wanky and generic and fluffy and idealistic and soft and good for LinkedIn posts. And that's about fucking it. When you've got 120 staff and then you have a lockdown, you'll soon change your attitude on what real leadership is. And for me, leadership's a bit more bare knuckle. It's a bit more real. Haven't gone to some wanky, fluffy school of someone who's really out of touch. But that, of course, me saying it like this gives you an idea of my own preferred styles. So I think your leadership style should come from your own values. If you think that the world's gone really woke and soft and everyone's become weak, you should be a bit more like Dan Pena or Andrew Tate. Mm-hmm. If you think that, all this bravado and American fucking puffing your chest out ego, there's quite a lot of the American influencers that have really gone that way. If you needed success more than you need breathing. I'll take breathing over success. So you got to figure out what are you, how do you want to live your life? How do you want to walk into your company? However, you have to look at your own blind spots. So if you're a conflict avoiding people pleaser, that's going to chase you because you're always going to avoid firing people when they need to be fired, or you're going to under negotiate. Whereas if you're just a ball of anger, you're going to piss everyone off.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you sit on the extreme of really left or really right, essentially, in your feelings about leadership style? What do you believe is right and wrong? I'll give you a couple of examples in a minute. And then what are your blind spots? So personally, I believe that it is really beneficial for you as an individual and for society for us all to take individual responsibility for our own lives and blame no one.
Mm-hmm.
And so to that regard, things that Andrew Tate says and Dan Pena says, I resonate with those parts. Because even if it's not your fault, if you make it your responsibility, you can change it. You can't change anything that you blame an external factor or force on. So I come from self-responsibility. So as soon as I hear blaming, complaining, defending, and justifying, that's cancer to me in my culture. That's not that I'm bravado and ego-driven, but that's a cancer in my culture, which I need to get out. But I also believe I want you to enjoy work. Like, I think if people love coming to work, half your job as a leader is done. So I couldn't be so aggressive and in your face because then they wouldn't enjoy coming to work. But I want them to be personally responsible, because I am. So fully responsible, but enjoying and your passion becoming your profession. And you can create a set of culture values, which you live by. And then you'll attract the people that resonate with that culture and you'll repel the people that don't.
Yeah, you said that earlier, taking responsibility. So that's something that you said is the only way you can continually grow is everything is your fault, even when it's not, right? So
yeah.
How did that mindset apply to your company, like during COVID, when most companies, it hindered their business, but you actually thrived during it?
Yeah, we thrived during it, but we had to work 5 times as hard to do that. Mm-hmm. And we're still feeling the consequences of it now. So it hasn't been at a cost. Okay. Because in our industry, we are the biggest. Therefore, by definition, we are the least lean and the least agile because we're the biggest. So lockdown was my fault because I didn't have a plan for what I couldn't plan for. Now, I've never been in the military or been in careers where it literally is life or death. But I'm pretty sure in that situation, you plan for everything, even that which you can't plan for. And I hadn't planned in business that for which you can't plan for. So anything that happened in lockdown that I believe was bad for us, I take responsibility for. That being said, I've always gone on the rule of have 2 years cash flow in the bank. I've always gone on the rule that have minimum fixed overheads and maximum variable so that you can become lean very quickly if you need to. If you've got masses of 12-month or 24-month fixed costs or more, you're completely bloated and stuck. So there were things that we believed that were right to plan for the future that helped us through lockdown. But I don't blame the government for lockdown in terms of what happened in my business. I blame me for anything that we didn't own, because then I can change it. So if there's one now, I'll have a plan. That being said, it wiped out 3/4 of my competition. So you could argue that was good for me. So the thing with personal responsibility is it takes courage. It takes courage to say, that was my fault. The ego doesn't like to do that. You worry that you're going to get fired, lambasted. That's sort of like an apology, that you're going to show weakness. I actually think it's the opposite. I think it's a strength, not weakness, to go, yep, that's my fault. Also, as soon as you do that, people back off you. So if people are on your case, you go, yep, 100% my fault. Forgive me, what can we do about it? They immediately back off and support you. Also, blaming, complaining, and defending and justifying it's weird to say this, but it's, for many people, it's very addictive and attractive to bitch and moan and complain. if you can set up your little pity party of bitches and moaners, complainers, and everyone can get their marshmallows around your fire of bitching and moaning, complaining, and everyone can listen to you bitching and moaning, complaining, and look how important you are bitching and moaning and complaining. And it's very addictive. And I know, I can even feel it in myself at times where like, I just want to bitch about this. Oh, come on, everyone come and listen to me. Yeah. It's so unproductive.
Yeah, so that's one of the traits that you've seen in billionaires is taking that responsibility. And then I guess another, like a main trait would be curiosity, right? Have you noticed, implementing kind of inquisitiveness into your daily life, that it's helped your business?
Yeah, so you mentioned 2 of my 21 habits of billionaires. One of the traits of billionaires people don't talk about is they have monopolistic control of a market. Mm-hmm. But those kind of things they don't really talk about because they want to get in hot waters. You mentioned curiosity there, which I think is number 2. So many of the billionaires I've interviewed have ended up turning the interview on me and asking me more questions than I've asked them. Like if you think about Elon Musk, you can clearly see there's always an element of trying to figure things out. Mm-hmm. And the billionaires always want to figure things out. And that comes from a place of curiosity to create a solution, to know more about how the universe works or how tech or engineering works. A lot of billionaires are engineers because they have that problem-solving mindset. To solve a problem, you have to be curious. You can't be a victim. Because most people are victims to problems. Oh, problems, not fair. We can't do anything about it. Oh, someone come and save me. Whereas an engineer, their whole career is built around solving problems. That's one of the reasons why you see billionaire engineers. Another reason is because many of the things that the masses need, like bridges, or travel, cars, planes, are made by engineers. But, if you think about the mad professor, even the Dr. Evil mad professor, there's an element of curiosity of wanting to solve a big problem. And they even embrace and enjoy the hardest problems that other people cower away from.
So those are 2 traits. All right, what would you say like the top 5 traits of billionaires? There's 21 that you have seen, but what are the top 5 that you've noticed?
Well, it depends on the outcome. If the outcome is money, then the trait is creating a monopoly. So no billionaire is ever going to admit that they've got a monopoly, i.e. unfair advantage and making it unfairly difficult for their competitors. Now, we're supposed to have antitrust, anti-monopoly laws in the Western states because we're not communist nations. But the billionaires have been able to sort of manipulate and control it and stay out of hot water. So Mark Zuckerberg just buys up all the competing social media platforms. And what a lot of very big, powerful billionaires do is control policy by funding and controlling politicians in very, very, very senior positions to make sure legislation is passed that benefits them. Or they get absolutely shit-hot lawyers. I'm not judging that because most humans, if they had the opportunity to do that, would take the opportunity to create an unfair advantage. So that's one trait. Another trait is minimizing tax. It's just not a trait, it's a strategy. Here's the thing. How can you become a billionaire if everything you earn, you're giving half away? Imagine trying to grow compounding when you make half, you make it, give half away, make half, you give half away, make half, you give half away. You can never really get that curve inflecting upwards for compounded growth. And any business owner knows you get to a certain level of revenue, and it's not a lot, where tax becomes your biggest expense. And if you had any other biggest expense in your company, surely the smart thing to do would be go, that's my biggest expense. How do I get that down? And when tax becomes that biggest expense, you need to get that down. So monopolistic control, curiosity, tax reduction. The understanding that in order to be vastly successful, you have to have very significant challenges and problems, and your reward for solving a problem is actually not a reward, it's a bigger problem. Like Elon Musk already had a lot to do, and then when he bought Twitter, you're like, bloody hell, he just caused himself a whole new load of shit.
Yeah.
And it didn't actually end up being that easy for him. But he's got the appetite and the mettle and the thick skin to go and do that. Donald Trump is nearly freaking 80 and he's running again for president. It must be like the hardest thing in the world to do, but he's got the resilience to handle those high level of problems. That's another one. Another one is that they know that they need to serve vast numbers of people. I hear little startup entrepreneurs say, I don't really want staff because they bring problems. Well, a billionaire might have 10,000 staff. They might need 1 million customers, or they might need to be in 92 countries. You cannot be a billionaire without scaling globally or knowing that you're destined to serve vast numbers of people.
Well, a lot of them have these investment strategies. What is your mix? What is your balance between, physical, intangible, active, passive, centralized, decentralized? How do you set that up for yourself?
Okay, so I probably haven't got it to the nth degree written down. My business partner probably has, but physical real estate, but that I feel is fairly decentralized in the ownership, we probably have 50% of our net worth. The thing is, if we had a good valuation of our company, it might make it more like 35% of our net worth. Because the valuation of a company, as you know, can depend on the market and lots of variable factors and the PE ratios and multipliers. Our companies might be 35% of our portfolio. And then the rest would be cars, gold, silver, watches, stock market, mostly S&P 500, FTSE 100, and then any other investments that we make. Crypto, I would say 50, 35, 15 would be the three-way split. We have 7 supercars. We might have a collection of 30 great watches. They vary from 15 grand to $250,000. Gold and silver's very decentralized. Crypto is very decentralized. Most of that would be in Bitcoin. We're talking 6 figures, not 8 figures, probably for me personally. I just don't know enough about crypto. I've got more precious metals than I've got crypto. I've got more cash than I've got crypto. I've got a bit more cash now because of high interest rates and dropping inflation. So that would be rough division. Now, in the UK, property ownership rights are pretty good. And no one, you're not, even though it's a bit more communist than it used to be. Now, if the state came and just started seizing property ownership, there would be anarchy. So I know a lot of people in crypto say, well, you don't fully own your property and, you don't really own your land because the state owns the land and the bank owns the mortgage, but yada, yada, yada. You can lose your bloody wallet in any crypto and you're fucked. Yeah. So in an African state, I wouldn't want to own real estate or too much of it. But in Western society, you're pretty safe on real estate.
And then I guess with regards to decentralization, we have all of this convergence now of geopolitical factors, high inflation. Do you think it is necessary to have this kind of geographically agnostic monetary system like Bitcoin?
Yeah, well, I'd probably use the word decentralized because decentralized probably assumes non-geographic. As well as geographically agnostic, the most important thing is unmanipulatable by the system.
Right.
because people are so freaking conditioned in this country. They're like, oh, well, my money's safe in the bank because it's guaranteed up and insured up to £85,000. Well, here's the thing they don't know. It's per banking group, not bank. And Lloyd's, I think, own 9 banks. It's a lot. So people think they've got 3 banks and they've got 85 in each. Actually, if they're all owned by Lloyd's, you're only guaranteed to 85, not 85 times 3. And if there's a run on the bank, do you think the bank gives a fuck about your 85,000 guarantee? Like, most people now know that insurance companies will wriggle to pay out. So how do you know that the banks aren't going to wriggle to not pay out of your 85 grand? So for me, gold is decentralized because you can own it and no one can know where it is and have no control over it. A lot of people think crypto is decentralized. No, it's not. Look at what happened with FTX. That was someone else's platform and you got mugged off. Bitcoin probably is, but you still need security and you need to make sure that your cold storage and you don't lose your code and all this stuff. So I would probably say truly decentralized is Bitcoin, if you know it well, gold and silver. Rolex watches are very geographically agnostic and decentralized. They are a currency in every nation.
Retain their value, yeah.
And recognizable across borders. Yeah, they retain their, but I could have something that's valuable in the UK, it isn't valuable in the Middle East.
Sure.
And vice versa. So watches are really good as well because, you know, you can store them safely away. And a lot of decentralization is no one else knowing, because what people don't know, they can't take from you.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we're taught that the banks are these benevolent organizations, but they are commercial, for-profit enterprises. Is the best way to beat the bank at their own game is buying these properties, these income-producing properties?
Yeah. So if you borrow $1 million, you have the problem. If you borrow $100 million, the bank has the fucking problem. All of a sudden, they don't want you to go bust. And so the more you borrow off the banks for appreciating assets that produce income, the more you're playing them at their own game.
Okay.
But what most people do is borrow small amounts of money to buy depreciating liabilities that get them trapped.
Right.
Whereas I like to borrow large amounts of money to buy appreciating assets. And obviously, if I get myself into financial trouble, it's going to hurt me a lot, but it's also going to hurt the bank a lot.
Yeah.
And then they're going to think about foreclosing on me, and they're going to consider giving me some grace periods and working with me, because they're going to go down with me the more money I borrow. Now, one thing you have to understand as well is there's many factors to inflation. One of them is money printing. And banks and governments don't really pay off their debts anymore. They just keep racking them up to the trillions. And they use extra money printing to, behind closed doors, pay off their debts. So if you get debt from them, when they're paying off their debt, they're also paying off your debt for you. So when inflation was over 10%, which it was not long ago, all my mortgages and all the loans I'd borrowed from the banks were paid down by 10% a year by the banks through their quantitative easing and money printing. So you get to leverage the game that they play to benefit themselves. You get to leverage when you borrow money from them.
Yeah, there was an article in The Economist. It said, I think it was the top 1% have surpassed the overall wealth of the middle class. It almost reminded me of the Industrial Revolution, where you had this growing gap between the elite and the working class. Do you notice any analogous socioeconomic factors between today and then? As we transition from the agrarian society to the industrial society, we had factories, urbanization, poor working conditions. Are there similar situations? Like, is there a growing gap that you notice?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everyone talks about it
Yeah.
and it feels like it. And, you've got very big, powerful corporations. Now you have powerful media corporations, powerful consumer brand corporations. So Meta own a lot of companies and they have a lot of power. And Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, they own a lot of brands and they have a lot of power. So what you have, the modern iteration or evolution of what was in agrarian or industrial is kind of like the super corporation. You go into the supermarket and you're looking at 5 different brands and you're looking at the price comparison between them all, and they're all different brands, but they're all owned by Nestle or Unilever, and most people don't know that. So obviously, those big corporations they're worth billions and now trillions. Look how really quick Nvidia got massive. So then you've got the middle class and the working class. The taxes are going up and up and up, but the billionaires and the corporations know how to offset it, write it off, and avoid it. But the working class and the middle class don't know how to, so they have to pay it at source. So people blame the rich. It's not the rich, it's the governing bodies. Because the governing body, here's what I believe the governing bodies should do. They should tax the super rich a bit more without penalizing them and sending them away from their country. And they should tax the new rich and so like some people deem £100,000 as rich. I don't. 10 million plus I deem as rich. But all these small businesses that could grow and expand, who society would deem as sort of rich, but they're actually not, are being penalized and squashed because they're easier to target. And then the lower end, they're letting them game the system through claiming on benefits and having houses and begging at the same time and blah, blah, blah. So all the people claiming on, no, by the way, there's obviously the odd, there are people who genuinely need benefits, people who fought for us in wars, who we need to support, people with genuine mental health and illness. I want my taxes to go to them. Instead, my taxes are going to people who own a house, professionally beg, make 200 quid a day and know how to game the system. So we need to get rid of all of this hacking of our welfare system. That's going to release billions. We need to support the working class, the middle class, and then the sort of new rich and give them more tax breaks and help them grow. And the super rich, we just need a bit more off of them. If we got 5% more than what the super rich are paying, that could still be trillions or hundreds of billions, and they're not really going to be asked. So it's all wrong.
I guess, yeah, in this current climate, what are you with businesses? What type of businesses are you investing in? Are you investing in any AI or new tech, mainly focused on property or?
Yeah, so I'm not a professional investor.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a trader. So if I buy shares, it's in singular companies for the long term, but probably not investing in like having a majority stake, just probably through S&P or FTSE, a self-managing fund like the Vanguard have. Because I'm not a dragon or a shark. I'm an entrepreneur. So I know what I'm not. Now, by the way, you can make billions being an investor. So I do know real estate, so I put my money in that and I control real estate. The thing is, if I invest in a company, I've got staff and founders and people who I can't control. If I've got real estate, I can control it end to end and it controls itself. So I'm always going to invest in real estate. That's becoming more and more scarce, by the way, which is weird, but it is. Because the market's artificially controlled by the banks. We've got more than enough land to build loads more houses. It's just controlled. AI we're implementing into our business. I'm not investing in any tech or AI because it's just outside of my wheelhouse. But definitely we're embracing AI a lot into many verticals of our business. Yeah.
Cool. And I guess, yeah, if somebody's just starting out, and they have, I don't know, like 100K to deploy into real estate, do you recommend single family home and renting that out, or trying to find an apartment complex? Are they no money down deals? Like what are the processes you think they should take?
Yeah. So let's say you got 100 grand. You should certainly invest 10 to 30% of that in your skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Because no money down is just you being good at deal making. Because like if you can convince anyone of anything, you can buy or sell anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got tools, delay completions, vendor finance, options, installments, and whatever, you've got tools, you've got buying options when cash isn't an option. And if you've got a good network and you know how to raise finance, you know where to go and who to go to and how to pitch them. Because the thing with 100 grand, let's say you divided it into the amount of deposits that you need to get single family homes, whether that's 1 to 3, probably, depending on your area. Well, once you've got 1 to 3, you've run out of money. What are you going to do then? Wait another 10 years to save another 100 grand? It's too slow. So you're going to invest 10 to 30% of it in your skills and your knowledge. Then the rest, you're going to start with single family homes. A lot of people kind of look down on single family homes. We call them single lets in the UK, just because they're a bit bland, a bit vanilla. They don't make a huge amount of money. But you don't get to black belt in BJJ until you learn the fundamentals of white belt. And you've got to learn the fundamentals before you can do all the funky creative stuff. And you've got to learn the buying process end to end. You've got to learn the management process end to end. You've got to learn the renovation process end to end. And the best way to do that is in small family homes where there's the highest demand and there's the minimum amount of things that can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got 1 2 beds, studios 1 beds, 2 beds, there's the maximum amount of people that can rent them. So you've immediately got the demand and therefore you haven't got the problem of voids. And the costs are going to be the minimum on them. And the variables of the things that can go wrong are going to be the minimum. And so if something does go wrong, it might cost you a month or 3 months rent. It's not going to cost you 3 years rent. If you have a big commercial development that takes you 5 years to develop and then it's empty for 3 years, you've got to fund that for 8 years. I know I did a 5-year project, 100 apartment block. I know the risks. So you've got to work up to that.
What are the goals for property? What are the next steps you think to kind of scale? Are you trying to go international, stay within your property market, or are there certain property markets that you notice that you want to get involved in?
So I'm not a fan at all of overseas markets.
Okay.
Because I think you chase the market rather than the fundamental. I'll give you an example of this. Loads of entrepreneurs went off to Portugal, Lisbon, because they had all these tax breaks for entrepreneurs and now they've shut them all. Oh, okay. Or a load of people went to Dubai, because of tax breaks, and now they're melting because it's fucking 45 degrees there. C, not F, And they're like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
So you have to be careful of chasing short-lived opportunity. Whereas if you stay in your city, in the end, you get all the deals, all the planners, consultants, you just know everyone, and the deals come to you. So we have 1,350 individual rental units, and they're all within 20 miles of 30 Ks of where I sit right now. And 80% of them are within 5 to 10 Ks of where I sit right now.
So I guess within that market, as you scale, does your approach to financing large scale projects, has that changed? Or are there innovative financing methods that you utilize, or?
So you go from smaller deals to bigger deals,
right? Because
there's a better leverage of time and there's better upside. So, we're looking at buying bigger hotels now. We did 100 apartment development, but there's a couple of 200 room hotels that one didn't get finished. We think there's an opportunity there. So you're going to try and do bigger deals each time because there's better leverage. Yeah. And then finance, you go from financing individual deals to having a credit line with a commercial bank.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be a boutique bank or a large scale bank. But essentially, you've got lines of credit and you've got floating charges, and you're not borrowing 100 grand for that property and then 100 grand for that and having to go through the same vetting and checking process every time, which is laborious. You're just like, right, You got 100 million facility, go deploy it.
Do you ever do any new construction builds at all where you're
No.
getting construction loans where it's okay? Yeah.
Just
Not interested in
again,
that?
no, I'm not interested in it. And also I know I don't know it.
Yeah, true.
So I think one of the things that life teaches me, which is like a great teacher for life, is that the more you learn, the more you realize you do not know. And I actually think that keeps you humble. And when I was in my late 20s and early 30s, I knew a bit about business and I was quite a danger to myself because I thought I knew more than I did. Even though I've taken a sort of a semi-industrial, semi-retail block and converted it into 100 apartments, I know I don't know construction from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to buy land. I don't know the price of land. I don't know planning to that degree. So even though you could say, well, Rob, you've converted a 100 apartment block, you could do construction. I'd go back to a 4 or an 8 unit construction. Mm-hmm. I'd go back small again. Because let's say, for example, you've got a third down in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and then you want to go and do Thai boxing. Mm. How much do you actually know about Thai boxing? Not a fucking lot. You know a bit. There's some fitness might be carried over, but it's a different type of fitness. And you actually don't know much. So develop really specialist knowledge and stay on that for as long as you can. And if you're going to do something new, try and make it as closely related as possible so you can carry over all your knowledge.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're specialized. Otherwise, it's just kind of spreading yourself too thin.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And one thing I've noticed between you and Grant is that family is very important for you. Like it's constantly being mentioned and integrating your family. Are there any things that you do to set them up for financial success later? I mean, I think you read about like the Rothschilds. I'm not sure if it was them that set up the trust that everybody borrows from. And then when they die, everything into that kind of life insurance policy almost. Yeah.
So I was in Geneva with a friend recently and he drove me around the Rothschild estate and told me how fucked up all the youngest generation of Rothschilds are, in his opinion.
Yeah.
And I believe that one of the greatest curses you can give your children and their children is of a load of inherited money without the knowledge and the resilience of having made it. Mm-hmm. So my wife has a differing view because her highest value is security. And so, I don't think that we should buy my kids a car. I think they should buy it themselves. My wife's like, no, they need to be safe. So we've agreed where we'll get them a really nice, new, safe, ugly as fuck car. And if they want a nicer car, they have to top up the rest. And I think that's good.
Yeah.
Because they need to be safe in a car. But I want them to work and hustle to get the car they want. So the thing is, when you're raising your children, there's obviously you and your wife or you and your husband or, you're co-parenting. And I'm a bit more like they learn through failing and hardship and challenge to build resilience and grit. Mm-hmm. And my wife's like nurturing and support. And I sometimes think she's too easy on them and she probably thinks I'm sometimes too hard on them. So for inheritance, I will drip feed them enough money to get started, and there will be, because by the way, you can write into a will anything. So you could write into a will, they get nothing until they're 30, and they get X when they're 30, but it gets topped up when they earn more. Mm-hmm. So you could give them 30 grand a year when they're 30, but if for every 100 grand over they make, you can give them more. You can have a proper bespoke ratcheted will system. And I like that more because I want it to be incentive based. But I'd be quite happy to leave my kids with nothing other than knowledge and resilience. I think that's the most important inheritance of all.
Because what do they say? It's on average 3 to 4 generations after that, the fortune is disappearing.
Yeah. Make it, manage it, lose it.
Yep.
The 3 generations usually.
That's because you're kind of enabling the kids, right?
Yeah, because like look at lottery winners. They're nearly all bust 2 years later.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's actually known. Money without the knowledge of how to handle it is a curse.
Yeah.
Let's say you had a load of mushrooms and you had to eat one and you didn't know which ones were hallucinogenic, which ones were nutritious, and which ones were poisonous and would kill you. Without the knowledge of managing that, you're fucked. It's guessing. It's the same with money. You don't have to manage your emotions. You don't have to manage other people. You know, Mike Tyson, he made, 400 million when 400 million was $1 billion. And he didn't know how to handle everyone wanting to sponge off him and his manager taking a load of money off him and X, Y, and Z because he was a boxer. Yeah,
I've dated a few people in that kind of dynastic realm, and not to besmirch anything, but you kind of notice that, you know, the great grandfather went through all of this trouble, set up everything, and then a few generations down, they're not working, they're receiving trust fund money and things like that. There's no motivation in that. So
no. And I know no one's going to want to hear this, but I actually have quite a lot of sympathy for someone
I think so too.
Given the curse of a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
And we're all like, oh no, I'd love a massive amount of no. It's anything that you don't know how to use is a curse.
Through no fault of their own.
Yeah, because that's just how they were raised, and they didn't know any different. And actually, the greatest gift I think you can give your children is the ability to survive and thrive in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But a load of money creates dependency and juvenility. Hardship creates resilience. The challenge is when one parent wants support and one parent wants challenge. I'd take my kids out of school today. I would. I mean, we've got them in a really expensive private school. I'd take them out of school today.
Like,
but my wife
does that, right?
Yeah, he does. I'd have my kids come into my podcast interviews, coming and working in the office. Obviously, maths, English, some languages. I'm not saying that everything that's taught in the school system is wrong.
Sure.
And social is so important. So I'd want to make sure they've got a good social life. I'd take them out of school immediately. My wife won't have it.
The subjects that you probably never even used, French, math, things like that, they don't teach you how to actually make the money and set yourself up.
You're taught how to recite. You're not taught how to think laterally, how to solve problems, how to be resourceful. And you're taught, not shown. I can tell you, when my kids saw me on the stage in front of 400 people, they were like, whoa. Every time I get I remember when my kids were young and they're like, oh, daddy thinks he's an influencer because he's got a few 100,000 followers. Oh, daddy thinks he's an influencer because he's got 3 million followers. And now every time I get stopped in the street, which is a lot, my kids are like, whoa.
Now they realize,
because they see it.
Yeah.
Kids do not listen to what you tell them, but they watch what you do.
Yeah, then switching gears. So you love, what's your top 5 supercars that you...
Top 5 that I own or top 5 ever?
Well, you own 7, right?
Yeah. Although I've just sold one of my classics. I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah.
I guess top 5 that you would love to own.
Okay. So I'm fortunate enough to own some that I'd love to own. So I love the Lamborghini Aventador. I don't think the Revuelto is enough better. And I own the Aventador, so that would be in it. I love the Ferrari Testarossa. It was my pin-up car as a kid. I own that, so there's 2. I love the Ferrari F40. To me, that is the best looking supercar that's ever been made. So that would be 3. I think you've got to have an everyday supercar in the top 5 supercars collection. So I'm probably going to put my DBS, Aston Martin DBS, maybe the 770 that's just come out, because I'm finding that is a daily driver. Beautiful car, sounds amazing. And then what we've got to put one outrageous one in, I suppose. That's like 5 million or
not a Bugatti or
yeah.
anything.
I think they're really ugly Bugatti, so they've never done it for me. I think
anything in
really
Andrew Tate's collection that you envy or that you would want? Any one of those cars?
There isn't really.
Yeah.
No. I probably, for full outrage. The thing is, he's got the Koenigsegg, the Rimac, the whatever, tick the box 3 or 5 million supercar is, but I don't think any of them look great. Like Ferraris and Lamborghinis look amazing. These hypercars, I don't think many of them look that good. They're so low you can't even drive the things. So the crazy hypercar is really hard for me. I don't know.
Because when you're looking for investment, you're searching for ones that are 1 to 200 made, probably, right?
Yeah. I mean, sub 500, you're likely to go up in value, aren't you? Yeah. The limited production is really important.
Any Porsches, like what is Porsche 935? I think there's about 50 of those.
The thing with Porsche is they're just too good for their own good.
Okay.
Because they tick all the boxes. But I had the Panamera Turbo S. It was so good, but it wasn't really exciting. But then it was a saloon car and it was fast. I have the old school 930, 911 Turbo with the whale tail. I mean, I do think the GT2 RS is savage. That is, the Widowmaker, as they call it. And that is the most aggressive, really deep grille, completely stripped out. It's going to beat just about anything under £5 million. So maybe I'd put that in there. I mean, the 918 Spider's obviously the hypercar, isn't it? But it's just a bit bland looking. Yeah, the Koenigsegg, the new, is it Jesko? Yeah, the wing on that is something like I've never seen before. Maybe I'd get the new Koenigsegg, 5 million quid. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, next time you're in LA, I went to the Auto Vault, which is like this bunker below Beverly Hills, and it's just all these phenomenal, super rare cars. So,
well, it's definitely great. I love going to places like that and cities where there's all the money, because you can smell it and it just gets you excited again. Because I'm from Peterborough, an hour out north of London. It's not the most aspiring city in the world. So, I'd say to anyone, if you're not really that into cars, go and look at your favorite car and set it as a goal and touch it and feel it. It's actually there's something scientific in the attraction of using material items as goals. A lot of people, you shouldn't be materialistic. You should live a minimal life. It's all about doing good. Nah, bollocks. The car you loved as a kid, put it on your freaking vision board and work towards it and buy it cash. And if in 2 years it's a letdown, sell it.
Well, yeah, dude, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you doing this. Where can people find you?
Well, my name is Rob Moore, so you can find me anywhere by just searching my name, Rob Moore. I've written 19 books. I've got my Disruptors podcast with nearly 1,100 episodes. But centralizing everything, because I do thousands of pieces of content a year, I'd recommend they go to rob.team, which is my digital financial freedom platform. If people want to start and scale a business, create multiple streams of income. I actually dropped the price to virtually free before lockdown. I haven't put it up since. That's probably where you get all my collated, centralized information. You just type in rob.team.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks a lot for having me. Really appreciate you.
Shout out to Julian Banks. Yes, sir. And I am Big Snoop Dogg.